The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
And we begin this morning with your 17 homicide tracker and yet another deadly weekend in Kern County. Law enforcement now investigating a deadly shooting in Wasco and an apparent murder-suicide in South Bakersfield. In Wasco, sheriff's deputies say 2 men were shot on G and 16th Streets just after 6:30 Saturday night. One was rushed to the hospital. The other man had already died. No arrests have been made.
Less than 24 hours later, first responders discovered a grim scene in a South Bakersfield neighborhood. 17's Marco Torres has more.
What Kern County Sheriff's Office says is a suspected murder-suicide here in this neighborhood just north of Valley Plaza Mall and south of Highway 58. Now what's even worse is this neighborhood is no stranger to violence.
It all started before noon. Deputies were called to a neighborhood in South Bakersfield where they arrived only minutes after being dispatched.
At 11:37 this morning, deputies were dispatched to the 300 block of Hughes Lane for the reports of a shooting.
Deputies made a grim discovery when they arrived on the scene.
When deputies arrived, they located a deceased adult female inside the residence and a deceased adult male inside a vehicle outside.
It's not yet confirmed who attacked the other person or what led up to the confrontation. Neighbors said they didn't even hear gunshots, but only heard the sirens and police once they arrived. According to our records, this is the 5th murder-suicide in Kern County this year. Almost a year ago today, a double homicide happened on the same street in the neighborhood. And just weeks ago, less than a mile away on Hughes Street, a man allegedly sexually assaulted a woman over 80 years old.
The exact details are still unknown, but the Sheriff's Office says they are investigating, and you can be sure we'll give you that information on our website at kget.com. From South Bakersfield, Marco Torres, 17 News.
At least one person was killed in a crash yesterday morning near Delano. CHP says the crash happened on southbound 99 just south of Willems Avenue at about 7 a.m. They say that's where the car rolled off the highway. Officials reported a downed power pole at the scene, but it's still unclear what led up to this crash.
In your 17 Crime Watch, a West High School student found with a gun on Thursday is facing criminal charges. This same day, another student spotted and reported 2 live handgun rounds in a restroom on campus. Jennifer Watts, whose son attends West, said she found out about the incident through a recorded phone call from the school Thursday night. Watts, who reached out to the school but received the same message, says this makes her question her son's future at West High.
I'm scared, still a little confused about how we were told. Would like a little bit more information. Nervous sending him to school. Not sure if I even want to. Our kids just aren't safe.
The Kern High School District released a statement encouraging parents and students to continue reporting any suspicious behavior. An investigation continues this morning into what caused a small plane to crash near the Visalia Airport, killing 4 people on board. Emergency crews were called to the area of Road 68 and Avenue 288 near the 99 just after 6:30 p.m. on Saturday. The victims aboard the single-engine Beechcraft Bonanza were pronounced dead at the scene. Their identities have not been released. No word yet on why the plane crashed, but officials say it appears the pilot tried to return to the airport shortly after takeoff.
5:06 is our time now, and it was a red carpet affair Saturday night as the Mayor's Ball returned at Canyon Hills' City Center campus in downtown Bakersfield. The ball raises money for CityServe Kern County, which works to expand the reach of local churches and programs that feed those in need. The organization also provides job training for the homeless population and other underserved communities. Last year's ball raised more than $271,000, but organizers say so far this year it has brought in $540,000 for CityServe Kern County, but they're still counting the money.
Your time now is 5:07. Sports news now. There was a point this season when the Independence Falcons weren't sure if they'd win one game. Now, after an instant classic, they are 1 win away from being crowned state champions. Fresh off their 8th straight win, the Falcons traveled to Venice High Friday night. Late in the third quarter, Venice scored a 57-yard touchdown to pull the game within 5 points. In the final seconds, DeMonte Moten picked off an interception in the end zone as time expired, securing the win. Final score, Independence 19, Venice High 14.
Just excited to be able to get to that, the holy grail of all football. No matter if you're in the pros or in college, playing for a state championship is up there with some of the greatest things in life. So I'm excited for these boys to be able to have that opportunity.
The Falcons will be playing in the Division 5 AA State Championship at San Marin High School Saturday at 6 p.m.
And from a police escort to a packed house, Bakersfield rallied behind their Patriots as Brian Nixon's team sought to make school history Saturday night. Needless to say, Liberty football did not disappoint. After taking down Pittsburgh 35-7, the Patriots are heading to their first state title game in school history. The team will play in the Division 1A championship game Saturday night at Saddleback College. And if this weekend was any indication, Bakersfield will be right beside them. That is so exciting. I went to Liberty High School, so I'm kind of rooting for my alma mater, as you can tell. But very exciting to see that they were able to advance. Both teams, not just Liberty, but Independence as well. It is something that Bakersfield has a lot to be excited for.
Can't wait to see what happens next for both teams.
Good morning, Alex and Maddie. Even as the Biden administration is clamping down on international travel, top health officials are warning there are already signs the Omicron variant is spreading within communities across the U.S.
We will be boarding our flight by group numbers.
A testing scramble for international travelers beginning today. Anyone flying into the U.S. from a foreign country must now show proof of a negative COVID test taken no more than 24 hours before takeoff. The timeline's so tight, it's forcing some travelers to cancel.
It's just really challenging. So much so that I don't actually know if we're going to be able to do it.
I was very angry at the change in such a quick turnaround.
Public health experts defending the move with the Omicron variant now detected in more than 40 countries, including the U.S.
I do think we have an investment in making sure people aren't bringing new cases.
As the concerning new strain spreads across at least 17 states, scientists are racing to learn more about how contagious it is, whether it will respond to vaccines, and how severe the symptoms will be.
Thus far, though it's too early to really make any definitive statements about it, thus far it does not look like there's a great degree of severity to it.
For now, experts warning the Delta variant still poses the greatest risk, with cases rising across the country.
We have about 90 to 100,000 cases a day right now in the United States, and 99.9% of them are the Delta variant.
With the busy holiday travel season well underway, the Biden administration says right now there are no plans for new restrictions on domestic travel.
With health officials urging a renewed focus on testing to control the spread, there are fresh calls from some top congressional leaders to make at-home test kits more widely available. The Biden administration is planning to distribute 50 million of those tests to community sites and rural clinics. In Washington, Alice Barr, 17 News.
And now to the coronavirus in Kern County. Public Health reported 14 new deaths from the virus on Friday. More than 1,800 people have died from COVID-19 since the beginning of the pandemic. Public Health also reported 261 new cases. State data on Friday showed 137 people are in the hospital with the virus, 35 more are in the ICU. And here's a look back at the last week. Public Health learned the virus has stolen 47 lives. We also learned an average of 351 more people caught the virus every day. An average of 142 people were in the hospital with more severe symptoms, while an average of 33 people were fighting for their lives in the ICU.
Making headlines around the nation, the Biden administration is expected to announce a diplomatic boycott at the 2022 Beijing Olympics. The move comes as pressures mounting from lawmakers to protest China's human rights abuses against the Uyghur community, and a crackdown on free speech in Hong Kong have led human rights groups and lawmakers to use the Olympics to make that statement while attention's on the games. A diplomatic boycott would mean that no U.S. government officials would attend the games, but U.S. athletes would still be allowed to compete. The announcement's expected sometime this week. And the LA City Council, meantime, has approved a key agreement for the 2028 Olympic Games. Under the deal, the city will boost services like police, sanitation, and traffic during the 17-day event. The agreement also addresses some of the financial risk the city faces should the games be delayed like the 2020 Tokyo Games. Under the deal, the city must buy a range of special insurance policies covering things like terrorism, disease, and civil unrest. The 2028 games are expected to cost $7 billion overall.
Tributes continue to pour in for former Senator Bob Dole, who died yesterday at the age of 98. Dole was born in a small Kansas town in 1923 and volunteered for World War II when he was 19. There, he was seriously wounded with injuries that would leave his right arm permanently disabled. Dole was elected to Congress during the Kennedy era and served almost 3 decades in the House and Senate, unsuccessfully running for president 3 times. The last time against Bill Clinton in 1996. President Biden tweeted yesterday, "Bob Dole was a man to be admired by Americans. He had an unerring sense of integrity and honor. May God bless him, and may our nation draw upon his legacy of decency, dignity, good humor, and patriotism for all time." House Speaker Nancy Pelosi ordered flags at the U.S. Capitol to be flown at half-staff in Dole's honor.
Your time now is 5:38. 20 years ago yesterday, Staff Sergeant Brian Cody Prosser was killed in Afghanistan.
The 28-year-old who grew up in Bakersfield and Fraser Park was the first Californian to die in the war. 17's Chris Burton is in studio this morning with a look back at the life of Cody Prosser.
On December 5th, 2001, a misguided U.S. bomb slammed into an Afghan hillside. Moments before, Cody Prosser and his team had been relaxing atop the hill, opening letters from home and beginning to gather intelligence. Prosser was struck in the head by a piece of shrapnel from the bomb. He died hours later, one of the first American casualties in the war that would stretch for decades. Prosser spent much of his childhood living with his father in Fraser Park. He attended Maricopa High School, where he played baseball and football. After graduating, Prosser enlisted in the Army, following in the footsteps of his father, Brian. He met his second wife, Shauna, at a bar in Bakersfield. The two married in 1998 and remained together until Prosser's death. Prosser is buried in Arlington National Cemetery, and a monument to him stands in Fraser Mountain Park. In studio, Chris Burton, 17 News.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.